Welcome to the sideboard of the Philadelphia Legacy Open. I'm Glenn Jones, joined by Todd Anderson.
Hi.
Todd, you're fresh off of 2 Legacy Open championships, not notching a third one this weekend, though. You're already out, but Brad's doing pretty well playing the same deck.
Yep, we're playing a kind of an updated version of Esper Deathblade, the deck that I took the last 2 opens I played in, and the deck's really solid. We're playing Geist St. Traff main deck, which is pretty huge. We found ourselves boarding it in basically every matchup, and even though it was coming out for certain cards, we just thought that there's no real reason not to be playing it. And we figured the worst card in the deck was probably Dark Confidant. It's obviously very good, but it does die a lot and doesn't win the game by itself. You have to sometimes dodge your own Dark Confidant to not die. And we figured maybe just playing 3 Geist of St. Traff main deck gives a few more blue cards for Force Will, which is huge. And yeah, it's been working sweet. I think Brad's 5-0 with the deck. I'm 3-2. I played against Ross Merriam and Drew Levin, and they just beat the crap out of me. So.
One of the things that I found pretty interesting is looking at the field. I've seen a couple of other players follow the same logic and start adopting the main deck Geist of St. Traff.
I think Matt Costa and Dave Shields are both playing the event, and both are playing main deck Geist of St. Traff. So.
Yeah, so great minds, I guess, thinking alike.
Well, we talked a little bit before the tournament. So.
Well, obviously the selling point of the deck, the previous Esper Stoneblade setup, I guess. You've got Stoneforge Mystic, Snapcaster Mage, Swords of Plushers, and then that's the kind of the core of the deck, and the rest of your spells, Lingering Souls, the equipment, etc. change around. But this deck adds in Deathrite Shaman to those 2 creatures to give you just another long game threat.
Ever.
Yeah. And Abrupt Decay, which is an excellent piece of removal and disruption.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I want to talk about with the deck. So how does the addition of Deathrite Shaman actually affect the game's ability to play longer games?
So, if you've ever played with Grim Lavamancer, it's kind of like a reverse Grim Lavamancer that also taps for mana. That's the way I've been looking at it, because most of the time with Grim Lavamancer, you're just doming your opponent for 2 because you're this red-based deck. But now, in a control shell, you're able to gain life with Deathrite Shaman. In a racing situation, if you have a Geist of St. Traff in play, you're able to just activate it to deal 2 to the opponent, acting like an actual Deathrite Shaman. But almost every time in the first 3 turns of the game, you're tapping it for mana. And with 11 fetch lands in the deck, and most decks in the format playing fetch lands, it's going to be like an early Birds of Paradise that turns into a great value creature later in the game. And that's just not something that is found anywhere else in the format. There just aren't cards that do that.
Yeah, the closest analog is something like Noble Hierarch, which mostly just remains relevant as the game goes on, as opposed to turning into a legitimate win condition. I think that Deathrite Shaman, especially in this deck, you're adding that 4th color, but at the same time, Deathrite Shaman actually makes you a little bit more resilient to Wastelands, whereas normally you might be worried about a 4th color affecting you. When you're on the play and you go, dual land Deathrite Shaman, what are they going to do? Are they going to waste you? Or are they going to burn your Deathrite Shaman? Either way, you get a mana.
Yeah, one of the grossest draws you can have in the deck on the play is to go turn 1 Deathrite Shaman into Wasteland Stoneforge Mystic. It is incredibly hard to lose if your opponent has a vulnerable land in that situation. A lot of times, the black-green decks only play Abrupt Decay, and they just can't Abrupt Decay your Stoneforge Mystic before you can put a Batterskull into play. The deck has a lot of angles of attack, which I really like. Now instead of having vulnerable creatures like Dark Confidant, we have more hard to deal with creatures like Geist of St. Traff, and value creatures like Snapcaster Mage and Stoneforge Mystic. Because even if Stoneforge Mystic dies, you still get to sometimes cast a turn 4, turn 5 Batterskull. Banestone Angel is no slouch. So and
very reasonable.
And suiting up a Batterskull to a Geist of St. Traff, might have done that on camera 2 weeks ago.
Might have, maybe.
It was pretty sweet.
One of the cards that you've added to the deck, we saw it in Lauren Nolan's Nashville winning list, and obviously, it got a little bit of, I don't want to say hype, but it was a sensation, to be sure. Notion Thief. And you've actually brought it back into the deck, and you're running it in the sideboard. And I know that we personally, as a group, we've made light of the Notion Thief in this particular deck. But you decided to play it this weekend, and what made you decide to go for it?
Well, I had it last week too. I actually really liked it against all the bug control decks. Jerry Thompson popularized the Ancestral Vision Shardless Bug deck, and they're basically their only removal is Abrupt Decay, and he costs 4, so they can't Abrupt Decay it. and they can't not unsuspend their Ancestral Visions. And so since you can almost always cast your Notion Thief on turn 4, if your opponent has a suspended Ancestral Vision or just taps out for a Jason Mind Sculptor and use the Brainstorm ability, you just get to annihilate them. Sure. And it's great against some combo decks. It's even kind of interesting against Enter the Infinite, because if they are drawing 40 cards and you have 43 cards in your deck, I'm pretty sure you can win the game.
You got 3 turns.
Yeah, figure it out. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it's been cool. I don't know if it's worth the slot, but it is a blue card, which is awesome for Force of Will, and it can come in against a lot of things like Time Spiral, or just it's great in a lot of situations, especially when your opponent can't actually kill it.
Yeah, it does seem like there are some Legacy decks that when they're vulnerable to it, they're like hyper vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's not just like it's a reasonable card; it's like a game winner, as you aptly laid out there. Well, Todd, thank you for breaking down your baby for us on camera. I assume you're going to continue to play the deck for many weeks to come.
I don't know. We'll see. I hate everyone knowing exactly what I'm playing each week. It puts me at a little bit of disadvantage, when I just continually write and play the same deck. But hopefully Brad takes this one down. That would be 4 out of 5 for Esper Deathblade.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Thanks.